Hi, this is Deb, and I am a recovered compulsive overeater and restrictor and addict and workaholic and codependent and a whole list of things. And I am very called to share with you today because, well, I listen to the guidance that I'm given from Source, Wisdom, God, that speaks through me, and I have been guided to begin audio recordings and video recordings and just sharing them in a more public way for whoever is supposed to hear them, whoever is ready to hear them, whoever wants to hear them. And so here I am at your service. And before I begin, I just ask Spirit, Source, God, to speak through me and to me and just carry a message of depth and weight and carry a message that perhaps we all need to hear right now, including myself. And I'd like to speak a little bit today about 12 steps and the resistance that I encounter when I'm interacting with other folks who, who sort of look askance at the 12 steps and they say, yeah, but, I don't want to go to a support group that everyone just sits around and talks about their problems and everyone identifies as being an addict or an alcoholic or something, and it puts them in this really, really limited framework, and they talk about being powerless, and it's just enabling their behavior, and I appreciate all of that opinion. It's just it's misguided, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. And I will also say this, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to some of that, and this is why. So I happen to not be an alcoholic, but when I do the 12 steps every year, because I believe it is the most potent spiritual alchemy that is out there, and every time I do it, I go deeper and deeper, and I get rocketed higher and higher into a new dimension of existence. But when the original Big Book of Alcoholics book came out in the late 1930s, the people who were going through the work at that time, there was like a 75 to 80% recovery rate of people going through and really becoming recovered. And fast forward to today, and we have more resources, more treatment centers, more therapists, more everything. And the last time I heard, the recovery rate in AA and recovery rate for alcoholics overall was something like 6%. I mean, it was just dismal, and that's just looking at alcoholics. But then looking at some of the other groups, like OA, other kinds of food groups, and drug addiction groups, it's even less than that. And so when I came across those statistics, it really struck me with, well, why? We have more resources and yet there's less recovery going on. And, I hate to say it, but, I would say the majority of 12-step meetings that go on out there are not carrying a very, very strong message. A lot of the meetings out there are pretty watered down. You can walk into a meeting and not necessarily hear a message of depth and weight and hear people actively talking about how they have had a spiritual awakening as a result of doing the 12 steps and showing you step by step how you can do the same thing. It's very rare, and I'm very, very lucky that I have found a fellowship that we are absolutely 100% committed to that, and the recovery is incredible, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people who go through this process, and And I feel very lucky that I have that, but not everybody has that. And so I don't want to completely make wrong the people who look on the outside at 12 steps and they say, well, that's not very effective because I know this person and they did it and they're still crazy, or I know this person and they did it and they're still using. And what I'll say about that is that we do have a lot of work to do within the 12-step world to really bridge the gap, going from, we have a 70% gap that we need to close so that we can restore the efficacy of how potent the recovery can be. And so that's what I will say about that. And then I also just want to address all of these misconceptions about what it means to identify as being an addict or an alcoholic or a compulsive eater or a gambler or a sex addict or any of these other kinds of things, an Al-Anon, codependent. Because what I've experienced with my own recovery is that, like, my spiritual life, or like it's worked in divine paradox, where things that are really, really humble end up being, massively sublime. And every time I think I'm doing something that's sort of counterintuitive to what I would think would get me the desired result, I do something that's counterintuitive, and then it takes me to an even grander result that I couldn't even ever have imagined. So ironically, it's when I actually get fully, fully honest and I fully understand what it means to be the real compulsive overeater or to be the real addict. Like, I fully understand that, and I'll save that for another video of explaining exactly what that is, the mind, body, and spirit, and what happens and how a person can identify themselves. Because just showing up to a meeting doesn't mean that you are the real one. And just because people go around in a circle and say, I'm Joe, I'm Sandy, and I'm a this, doesn't necessarily mean that they know what that is either. And so the work actually invites you to come into it with a big question mark, like maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And then as you do the work, your truth is revealed to you. And so I've done the work and my truth has been revealed to me, and I do understand that I am the real one. But what's fascinating about that is that it's not saying, oh, I'm this, and therefore it justifies all of my victimization and entitlement and sabotaging behavior and the ways that I just, like prostitute my soul, selling myself short. It doesn't justify that. What it does is it helps me get honest, just like any person who has a dis-ease, a separation from ease, a separation from comfort, a separation from health, would go to their doctor and they would get a diagnosis. And then they would say, okay, I have diabetes, for example. Okay, so now what do I need to do so that I don't die? What medicine do I need to take in? And what I have found for me is that the medicine is a spiritual medicine. It's a medicine for my soul. And when I get honest about what I got, then I'm open and available to the spiritual solution. And the spiritual solution I have found has been laid out in the 12 steps. And it never gets boring. It never gets old. It never gets, oh yeah, that, I already know that. It never gets that way. It continues to be fresh. It continues to be new. And I continue to uncover more and more and grow closer and closer to source and to the truth of who I am. And so it's like, again, it's this divine paradox of like going into the belly of the beast and saying, I actually am this. Getting honest about that. And then with that honesty, it creates a foundation. I'm able to create this incredible foundation when I concede to my innermost self. And from there, healing can begin. recovery can begin, transformation can begin. And so, wherever you are in this conversation, if you happen to be on the side of, I've been to a 12-step meeting before and I didn't want what any of the people had, and there was not a message of depth and weight, I didn't experience that, it's not for me. Or if you're someone who is on the outside looking in saying, that 12-step thing, I don't really agree with the principles that they outline or the way they do business, it just doesn't work for me. I invite you to simply just set aside everything. Set aside all of the prejudice, all of the judgment. I don't have your answer for you about what it is that you need or what might take you to deeper levels of freedom and fulfillment and purpose and harmony. I don't have your answers. But one thing I do know is that you won't get to where you want to be if you are following the path of judgment and separation and, oh, that's them over there and me over here, and creating that. It just, like, that's not how Source works. That's not how recovery and healing works either. So if this video can just be an invitation to you to set aside what you think you know and be available for a new experience. And if you want to go further in every area of your life, if you want more fulfillment, more happiness, more connection, both with yourself and with others, spiritual connection, if you want these things, then there might be something for you here. And I would love, love, love to share more with you. So thank you for taking these few moments out, and I can't wait to connect with you more. There is so much that wants to come through me and share with you right there. So I hope that you stick around. Bye-bye.